What's going on, guys? It's Durant, and as you can see, we have two sneakers on the table today. We have the Nike KD6 as well as the Under Armour. Did I just say Nike KD6? What's going on, guys? It's Durant, and as you can see, we have two sneakers on the table today. We have the Nike KD12 and the Under Armour Curry 6. Now, these are both sneakers that I have not done a performance review on yet, but you guys have been absolutely begging for it. So what I decided to do was take these two sneakers and we're gonna declare a winner for every single category. That's traction, cushion, materials, fit, and support. So hopefully at the end of this video, you have enough information to decide for yourself which of these two sneakers you should get for your playstyle, and also which of these two sneakers I like more personally. So think of this as like two performance reviews in one video. It's a 2-for-1. I know you're excited, so let's get started.
Ignition sequence start.
All right, so first things first, let's talk about the traction. Now, both of these sneakers have great traction. I mean, seriously, guys, I felt really comfortable with both of these sneakers on a variety of floors. However, one of these sneakers has a little problem with the outsole. Okay, I lied. It's actually kind of a big problem. Now, you probably already know this by now, but multiple people have reported that the outsole of the Curry 6 has started to peel from the shoe itself, especially on the inside part of the forefoot where you can kind of see that hover foam design. Now, obviously, this is a really big problem, and when you're spending money on something like this, you just don't want to see that happen. So I could totally understand if this is a deal breaker for some of you guys, but for me personally, I did not see this problem happen to me. There is a little bit of chafing in that area, but for me overall, the experience with the traction was great. But I did find myself wiping a lot more with the Currys than I did with the KDs, but that could just be because this rubber compound picks up a lot more dust than the KDs do. But again, overall, the traction experience was really great, really responsive, and it fits in overall with the fast nature of the shoe itself. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that there is this little TPU plastic piece on the midsole where the SC30 logo is. And if you have bad footwork like I did in one instance and your foot lands on that plastic piece, it is plastic, it's not rubber, and you will fall all the way down to the ground. I mean, I don't really want to blame the sneaker here for this problem because I did have really bad footwork, but that's just something that's not going to happen in a lot of sneakers. And had this been rubber, it might not have happened, but since it's a slippery plastic, you will fall to the ground and look like a fool while falling to the ground. Because I look like a fool while falling to the ground. Now, as for the KDs, the outsole on these isn't the most durable thing in the world. So if you're looking for a good outdoor option, these really aren't going to be a good one. But for everything else, I thought the traction was pretty stellar, especially on clean floors. If you're lucky enough to play on a clean floor, this outsole is going to stick to that floor like glue. But even on dirty ones, I thought the traction was pretty consistent. And like I said, I didn't find myself wiping as much in these like I did with the Curry 6s. So even if the Currys didn't have that defect with the outsole and it was just a straight up competition, I would still pick the KDs to win this category. Because again, I just thought it was more consistent, and also that defect with the Curry 6s is kind of a big deal. I mean, we can't really just ignore it. So the KDs win this first round. Now let's move on and talk about the cushion. All right, so when it comes to cushioning, these two sneakers just provide completely different experiences that will cater to different players and play styles. One type of player might like one sneaker over the other, but at the end of the day, one of them clearly has a superior setup. Not only did Nike install one of my favorite cushioning setups of all time with the full-length Zoom Air unit, which by the way is top loaded, which means your foot is going to sit directly on top of all that Zoom goodness. But they also added an extra Zoom bag in the heel, making it double stacked, which in my opinion is kind of overkill, but it feels great. It's a fantastic setup, and it really shines when you're going full speed down the court. And it's really gonna please people like myself who wanna feel a little extra bounce and explosiveness with their cushioning. Now the Currys, on the other hand, provide a completely different experience. I mean, these are gonna provide a much more low to the ground responsive ride, which is great for people who think they play like Curry, you know, quick guards who need to get to point A to point B as fast as possible. These are gonna provide a lot more control, and you definitely sit a lot lower in these than you do with the KDs. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for something with a little extra bounce, a little bit more feedback, a little more explosiveness, these are just not going to be a good option. But don't get me wrong, it's still a fantastic setup. They definitely have their place. And honestly, it's probably the most versatile cushion setup that a Curry signature sneaker has ever seen. But when you're competing against something like the KD12 and that full length Zoom unit, which is double stacked in the heel, which again is absolute craziness, you're just not gonna win. I do think this cushion setup with the KDs is more versatile, and it will cater to a lot more different players and play styles. So it's hard for me not to give the KD12 the win here, so I won't. It's a better setup. All right, next up, let's talk about the materials. And while this category was really close, I was able to pick a winner. Now on paper, the KD12's materials may seem cheap and uninspiring with its textile upper, screen mesh overlay, and fuse hits. I mean, honestly, it sounds like I'm describing sneakers straight from 2013, but in practice, it's actually quite the opposite. Right out of the box, the materials are extremely soft, but as time goes on and you start to break things in, the materials get even softer. And every time I slip my foot into the KD12s, they felt like a warm blanket around my foot, because yes, there isn't a whole lot of ventilation in this sneaker, so they are very warm. But more importantly, they felt like a warm blanket because everything fit around my foot extremely well. And it provided a very comfortable experience that surprisingly held up very well. And let me tell you guys something. This tongue on the KD12 is stupid soft. Now, as for the Currys, Under Armour implemented a more low profile setup that fits right in with the overall feel of the shoe itself. But if we're just talking about the upper, the knit that's used here reminds me a lot of the early iterations of Flyknit, such as the upper that can be found on the elite version of the Hyperdunk 2016s. But at the end of the day, what Under Armour tried to do here was create an environment where the upper sits as close to your foot as possible. And as you'll see in our next category, that doesn't really happen. But on their own, the materials are solid. I just found myself enjoying what the KD12 had to offer a little bit more. But beware, guys, if you don't want a soft plush experience that's just not what you're looking for, you'll definitely want to go with the Curry 6s. Okay, so fit. Now, this is probably one of the easier categories for me because one of these sneakers just didn't fit around my foot as nice as the other one did. The fit in the Curry 6s just simply has way too much dead space in the front of the shoe. So depending on your foot shape and size, you're gonna experience a little to a lot of dead space on the top of your toes. And it isn't particularly a big issue because the lacing system did do a fantastic job at really locking in my foot and keeping it in place. But when you couple the dead space in the front of the sneaker with the dead space that I experienced in the heel of the shoe, it kind of creates this uneven experience that made me think that I should have gone down half a size, but then I just thought the midfoot is already tight as is, and if I went down half a size, it would be way too tight. So I do recommend going true to size. Just keep in mind that you may experience a little dead space in both the front and the back of the sneaker as well. Now the KDs, on the other hand, fit around my foot extremely well, really throughout the entire shoe. And even though straight out of the box, they did feel a little snug in the middle of my foot, things did start to break in over time. And like I talked about earlier, the materials that Nike used here are very soft. So even if it does feel a little snug in the middle of your foot initially, those soft materials aren't uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form. So that tightness is just not going to be painful. Now, there actually was one thing that I wasn't a huge fan of with the fit in these, and that was the collar area. Now, previously, all of Kevin Durant's signature sneakers have been low tops with the exception of the KD5 and the KD8 Elite, whatever those were. So it was surprising when the KD12 was unveiled and we saw that it was going to be a high top sneaker. But at the end of the day, surprisingly, they don't feel like a high top at all. They actually play a lot more like a low top sneaker, which some people might actually really appreciate. They might love the fact that these don't feel like a high top at all and they feel more like a traditional KD signature sneaker. But for me, it just was a little off-putting because obviously I was expecting a more secure fit around the collar area. And at the end of the day, it just felt like there was an eyelet missing, so I couldn't wrap the collar area around my ankle as much as I would like. But like I said, it's really gonna come down to preference. And for me, my preference was a little bit more secure of a fit in this area because at the end of the day, it is a pretty loose fitting feel in the collar area. But everywhere else, I thought the fit was absolutely fantastic. So I do have to give the KD12 here yet another category, but that is all going to change in the next one. All right, last but not least, guys, let's talk about the support. Now, much like the cushion category, both of these sneakers provided different experiences, but I do think one of these sneakers is a lot more stable than the other. Thanks to the full-length zoom unit in the KD12, you will be sitting a lot higher in them than you would with the Currys. And even though the KD12 isn't an extremely high top sitting sneaker on its own, when you're comparing them to the extremely low to the ground ride that the Currys have to offer, it is noticeable. And the outrigger on the KD12 also caused some problems for me as well. When I didn't have great footwork, I kind of stumbled on the outrigger and just kind of fell to my feet. So if you consider yourself a clumsy player, the high top sitting nature and extremely wide outrigger of the KD12 might not just be for you. Now the Currys are almost the complete opposite. They have a really wide base, flex grooves in the forefoot, and a speed plate as well. So overall, the Curry 6s provided a locked-in ride that sticks with you in every direction. And unlike the KDs, you do sit pretty close to the floor in these. So if you want to get as close to the floor as possible, the Currys are going to be exactly what you're looking for. Now, obviously, there's some trade-off here. I do think the KDs are going to cater to more explosive wing players. So if you think you're one of those, maybe don't pick up the Currys. But if you're a quick guard who relies on his quickness, or even someone who's just a lumbering big who really stays grounded to the floor, I do think the Curry 6s are the better option because they are simply the more stable sneaker. All right, so there you guys have it. The KD12 took just about every category except support, but I don't want you guys to think that that makes the Curry 6 a bad sneaker. I mean, it is unfortunate that the outsole is at risk of being defective, but overall, I think the Curry 6 is the most versatile Steph Curry sneaker to date, and it gets me super pumped for the next one, the Curry 7s, because I think the Curry 7 has potential to be an amazing on-court performer. But if we're not looking forward, we're just looking at today, the Nike KD6 is hands down the better sneaker for most players and the sneaker that I would recommend. If you guys enjoyed this performance review or performance reviews, please drop this video a like. That helps me out a lot. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell for more sneaker related content just like this. And also let me know in the comment section below, guys, if you have both of these sneakers, which of these two sneakers do you like? And if you only have one, which one do you have? And tell me why you like them in the comment section below. I love to chop it up with you guys. But anyways, my name's Darren. It's been great having you. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.